Projects, there we go. That's me. William Pomerantz, Director of Space Projects for the X Prize. You've come here to Godalming, Surrey, to tell everybody about the new X Prize competitions and also reflect on some of the older competitions. So tell me, what competitions are there currently available to be taking part in?
Sure. The X Prize Foundation has grown and expanded a bit. We are most famous perhaps for the original Ansari X Prize, the $10 million prize we offered in 1996 for repeated human suborbital spaceflight. And after that was won in 2004, we sort of looked at some of the results, how many teams competed, what they were capable of doing, how much money they spent trying to win our prize. And we said, hey, we've got a model here that really works. So let's continue with it. Let's expand it to new prizes. Let's stick with space, which is sort of our core competence and the personal passion of most of our staff members, but let's also see if we can maybe expand it to some new areas. So the X Prize Foundation is currently running 3 $10 million plus prizes as well as 1 smaller prize. 2 of those are in the space sector, and that's what I work on. And those are the $30 million Google Lunar X Prize, which we announced in September of 2007, and the $2 million Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander Challenge. So it's nice that there's a thematic linkage between the two. The results that we're seeing and have been seeing for the past couple of years in the Lunar Lander Challenge are a small part of what teams are going to need to do to perform and win the larger Google Lunar X Prize. So we're running both of those at the same time as we're running a $10 million Archon X Prize for genomics, which is for rapid and cheap sequencing of complete human genomes. And actually just last week we announced a new prize, which is a $10 million Progressive Automotive X Prize for mass-producible, consumer-ready, highly fuel-efficient vehicles.
Where does the money come from for the X Prize? Who pays for it?
That's a great question. I get that a lot. People wonder, when you work for a foundation that is famous for giving away money and yet is also a nonprofit, a lot of people say, hey, where are you getting all that money and how do I get a piece? It comes from a lot of different places. Traditionally, we've been based in philanthropy, so we are a charity and we get donations, large and small, from individuals around the world. Some of the most famous ones have been people like Anusha Ansari and Hamid and Amir Ansari, for whom our original prize was titled. And now we have folks like Stu Blusson, who was the major donor behind the Archon X Prize for genomics. But now we're also starting to inch into the area of corporate sponsorships. So companies are finding that rather than sponsoring something more traditional like a football club, or in the United States perhaps a college football bowl game or a high school band or whatever it is, they're discovering that by attaching their name to a prize, they're getting a huge amount of press and media attention, and it also is coming with this very positive halo effect because they're associated with a competition that's perceived by all as sort of beneficial for humanity as a whole. So now we've been able to do some of those with companies like Google and with our newest prize, Progressive Insurance, which is one of the largest car insurance companies in the United States. But we still are very dependent on pro bono labor, volunteer time, and sort of grassroots donations coming in from around the world. So I'd encourage all our viewers to go to the X Prize website and maybe pitch in a little bit if they feel so inclined.
What inspirational value do you see setting a financial reward on exploration, giving to people that want to go but are always stopped by the question of, well, how expensive is it?
Sure. That's an excellent question again. So much of the space industry right now is limited by inspiration and by investment. And those are perhaps the 2 areas where prizes can be most effective. Essentially what we do by offering a new X Prize is we set a research agenda that drives people both from within the space industry and without towards a common goal. And we also give them a huge amount of legitimacy that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So if in 1995 you had gone to your local venture capitalist or banker or whomever and said, hey, I'd like to build a rocket and send human beings to space and I think I can do it for $20 million, you probably would have been laughed out of the office. It just simply wasn't something that people believed was possible. NASA was the people that do that. You know, the Russians were the people that do that, and they spend billions of dollars every year, and they have been doing that for 30 years in order to maintain a manned spacecraft fleet. And as soon as we offered a prize, and you could go in and to your same venture capitalist or your banker and say, hey, I don't just have this crazy idea, but here's another person who thinks that my idea can succeed and is so convinced about it, they're actually willing to give me $10 million without me giving them anything in return just for demonstrating something. That gives you a certain amount of legitimacy. You're not just a crazy guy coming in off the street. You're a serious business person who has a business proposition and has an immediate customer that can allow you to recoup a big percentage of your initial capital costs right away.
Do people who go for the X Prize, is it all about the money, or is there certain kudos about winning the X Prize now?
I think originally the money was the major motivator for a lot of the teams in the original Ansari X Prize, and probably in most of the new competitions as we branch out to new industries. You know, it's eye-catching, it gets your heart pumping, it gets your family a little more supportive of your side project or your idea to risk your personal fortune and try for something. But people quickly get hooked on the idea and realize that it's about something more than the money, and we see that demonstrated in a couple ways. One is the repeated willingness of teams to spend in excess of the prize value trying to win the prize. You know, these are smart, well-informed, rational people. They wouldn't be doing that if their only goal was to win the prize, but they see both some common, humanity kind of benefits that they can, lend by winning these prizes, but also they see a larger business model of which winning the prize is only one step, the first step or the first of many steps, hopefully. That's one big thing. Another thing that we have noticed time and time again in our competitions that's truly heartwarming is the extent to which our teams collaborate and help each other. These are people who are, again, risking their personal fortunes with a lot of money on the line. They would have every reason to ignore each other or to actively dislike each other, but much to the contrary, we often see them helping each other out, sharing results, providing equipment for loan, providing advice. And usually when you see one of our companies performing a test, often the first thing they do as soon as they get the results of that test is share it with their competitors and say, hey, I did this test, can you help me do the analysis? Here's what I think it meant, here's the mistakes that I've made. I don't want you to make the same things, now you help me in return. So that kind of spirit of camaraderie and that common quest for the same goal is something that really lifts the value of the competition and shows that although the money's a big part, it's not the only thing.
The X Prize has appeared almost at the same time as sort of the rise of commercial spaceflight. Do you think that's a coincidence, or do you think that one is the direct result of the other?
I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that the X Prize Foundation, the Ansari X Prize, and the annual space show that we run called the X Prize Cup have all had an enormous impact on this emerging commercial space industry. There were pieces of it there, to be certain, before us. There have been commercial space booms and busts in the past. But I think that we had a key role to play in making sure that this time, hopefully it's to stay, and that there's a lot more success, probably just as much talk as in previous attempts, but a little more results than we've seen before. It's interesting that the X Prize Cup has become such a proving grounds for companies largely in the United States, but with some involvement from teams here in the UK and other places. There are a lot of space conferences in the year. There's some great ones like the one that we're at today, the UK Space Conference, where people can come together and show ideas and communicate with each other and perform some business, in the hallways and in side sessions. But there simply aren't that many opportunities for people to come and actually demonstrate hardware, to fly a vehicle or to fire an engine. And that's really the best way to get new investors hooked and new customers hooked, and to realize that, hey, company A and company B have overlapping interests and maybe they should merge or maybe they should do some business together. So if you go to conferences in the United States now, you see how much of companies' work is geared towards doing this public demonstration at the X Prize Cup, and how that is sort of both a carrot and a stick to drive them forward and to ensure that they have new results to present every year, which is something I think that they're finding incredibly healthy for their long-term business prospects.